family can sleep a little bit easier tonight is good news.
An arrest in a death threat investigation targeting Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown and his family.
Tonight, the suspect taken into custody and details of the allegations he's facing. Good evening. The mayor is expressing relief tonight.
This as he shares details of the threat that was made. CTV Sean Lathong joins us live with the update. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, Peel police were clear that they believe this person acted alone, but some of the evidence they uncovered in their investigation and some of the positions that Mayor Brown has taken in the past had them looking internationally. A threat made to Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown in late June has resulted in a 29-year-old man being arrested.
I was told to leave my position, leave Brampton. Otherwise, my wife, my son, and myself would be killed.
Peel police arrested 29-year-old Kanwarjot Singh Manoria of Brampton yesterday. He's charged with utter threats to cause death or bodily harm. The threat came electronically in late June, with Peel police providing Brown with protection while they investigated.
I think part of the apprehension initially, some of the concern from police initially was the fact that this was on the heels of some positions that I took on transnational crime.
Brown has been vocal in advocating that the Bishnoi crime group out of India be considered a terrorist organization. This, as many South Asian business owners in Ontario and across Canada have been subjected to extortion threats and shootings, something the RCMP have acknowledged.
I mentioned previously the Lawrence Bishnoi gang that's involved in extortions and narcotics originating from India.
While Bishnoi himself is behind bars in India, Canadian officials have confirmed he's still running the operation. At a separate event yesterday, Peel Police Deputy Chief Nick Milanovic spoke about the need for caution.
And certainly in Mayor Brown's case, when you look at his public position on community safety and the stances that he's taken, particularly along some of those foreign groups that you're referencing, it's something that absolutely has to be considered.
Police are saying they believe Manoria acted alone, but according to Brown, had initially claimed to be from an international crime network, and the message came through a computer server in Sweden.
Currently, right now, I do not believe that it's from outside of Canada.
Or an organized crime.
Or an organized crime group.
Brown saying he never felt worried thanks to Peel police, but learning of the arrest last night was helpful.
The fact that my family can sleep a little bit easier tonight is good news.
Now, the suspect was taken into custody yesterday, and they remain in custody pending a bail hearing. Reporting live, I'm Sean Lathong. Nathan and Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. And still to come, days after Toronto rapper Top 5 was stabbed following a Drake concert in London, we're learning more about how he managed to shoot a music video while behind bars, what the investigation report reveals.
But first, we turn to new measures aimed at protecting Canada's steel industry.
The Prime Minister in Hamilton today to make the announcement, and it comes amid a trade war and increasing tariff threats from U.S. President Donald Trump. CTV's Heather Wright reports.
This Hamilton, Ontario steel fabricator has been in business for 70 years and had been sending nearly 70% of its products south of the border. Now that number is close to zero.
This is Steel Town for a reason.
Today, the Prime Minister was in Hamilton announcing measures to help Canada's steel industry. By the end of the month, Ottawa will tighten the quota for steel coming from countries without a free trade agreement like China and Turkey to half of 2024 levels. Anything beyond that will face a tariff of 50%. This measure is aimed at reducing foreign steel that has flooded the Canadian market, much of it diverted here after the United States imposed tariffs on the global steel industry in March. And with Canadian steel producers effectively shut out of the U.S., Mark Carney says this will help them sell their products domestically.
For Canada to build big things fast, we need our steel industry to advance, not retreat.
As Canada embarks on massive infrastructure spending, the Prime Minister also announced that any companies bidding on government projects will have to use Canadian steel.
We will change the federal government's procurement process to require companies contracting with the federal government to source Canadian steel for government contracts.
The tightened quota and increased support for laid-off workers announced today come after the steel industry said measures announced last month didn't go far enough.
We got things going on south of the border. We can't control all of that. But what we can control is here in Canada. Let's make Canada the best.
Asked about ongoing trade negotiations with the United States, the Prime Minister would not say what level of tariffs Canada would accept, nor would he say whether Canada would impose additional retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods. He said both were good questions, but said answering them in the midst of trade talks would be a bad response. Heather Wright, CTV News, Hamilton, Ontario.
Also tonight, a celebration of culture, diversity, and vibrancy that defines our great city every summer. We get some details on the plan for this year's Caribbean Carnival.
Now let's head outside, a live look. We've got our eye on the sky tonight. The potential today for showers, even a thunderstorm. You may have also noticed the hazy conditions and the heat prompting weather alerts yet again. Let's bring in Lindsay Morrison with all the details. Lindsay.
Well, Michelle, this has been quite a stretch of heat and humidity. We are still feeling it at this hour. It is 32 degrees. It's now just 31 in Ottawa, 31 in Peterborough, and in Toronto. Continues to feel a lot closer to 40. Still quite hot as well for some lakeside communities, even though we have had a few showers move through not too long ago. This heat warning remains in effect, likely for the rest of tonight. And then into tomorrow, it's still going to feel quite muggy, even though a change is starting to happen. Air quality special statements still in place as well. We had elevated air pollution levels today. We're at a moderate risk for tonight, and then a further change for tomorrow, likely in the right direction. Here's the satellite and radar. I mentioned a few showers around the west end of the GTA, and now for some areas north of the 401 at this time. It's been an unsettled day across southwest Ontario, but weather advisories and watches in that part of the province have now come to an end. Overnight tonight, a hot night in the city, 23 degrees, still feeling like 30, but then about 24 to 36 hours from now, we will feel a whole lot different around here. We'll take you through the forecast coming up. For now, though, Nathan, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Well, remember this? It was exactly 1 year ago Toronto was hit with torrential rain and severe flooding. Nearly 100 millimeters was recorded at Pearson Airport. It was more than a month's worth of rain that came down all at once. The flooding impacted highways and transit hubs and left thousands in the city without electricity, not to mention hundreds of millions of dollars in damage.
That was not fun. And from major floods to severe snowstorms, there is more fallout tonight on Toronto's response to major winter weather event earlier this year.
The mayor calling out city staff, pointing out problems with how the cleanup was handled. CTV's Natalie Johnson joins us live with the story. Natalie.
Well, Nathan, Olivia Chow is blaming that botched snow response on bad contracts and a lack of oversight by city staff. The question now for council is whether they can fix it before next winter hits. As the sun beat down on City Hall today, officials inside were trying to turn down the heat on a fumbled file.
We know it's a hot day today. We should be planning for the snow.
Snow that, back in February, ground the city to a halt. 50 centimeters in a week that in some places sat uncleared for days in what the mayor today called a systemic failure.
The city staff in charge with managing the snow clearance failed in their job.
Audits and investigations have since revealed dozens of deficiencies. Snow clearing machines were unreliable and broke down at critical times. Systems showed that routes had been cleared even when they were reburied or missed. And the city lacked surge capacity in staffing and equipment.
I think residents see the city having a plan that really relies on Mother Nature just to sort of warm up and get to spring rather than actually being able to do the job.
Of 29,311 calls for help, only 51 were answered.
That is a systemic failure of ignoring the basic needs of trying to get out onto the street.
The mayor has to be the CEO of the city, and accountability, performance, and results starts at the top. And so, that's her approach, to go out and blame the staff.
The executive committee today calling on council to greenlight a major snow event plan to make sure the February failure doesn't happen again.
Poor performance management, not good enough contract management or contract language, and the city manager has now said that he's going to have a very deep look, forensic look at this contract.
We didn't have a strong enough plan in place with enough of the operational details that we still lack some of the quality assurance pieces to just let people know, A, your street's been plowed or it hasn't. Those are things that we needed to fix, and we're going to have to go fix them right now, and that's something that probably should have been done earlier.
Because this heat wave won't last forever, and before the city knows it, Toronto will once again find itself in the middle of another big dig. One of the issues identified with the contracts was that they were structured around snow plowing and salting. Councillors recommending today a standalone contract for large-scale snow removal. Reporting live at City Hall, I'm Natalie Johnson. Michelle, over to you.
Thank you, Natalie. Toronto police say a man wanted in a downtown stabbing last week was convicted in a high-profile mass shooting more than a decade ago. 31-year-old Shaquan Mosquito was wanted for attempted murder and the stabbing of a man near Yonge Dundas Square last Friday. Investigators say he is considered dangerous and should not be approached. Today, police confirm Mosquito is the same individual who was arrested following a mass shooting at a barbecue on Danzig Street that killed 2 people and wounded more than 20 others back in 2012. He was initially charged with 27 offenses. However, he later pleaded guilty to lesser charges. He was sentenced to 9 years in prison in 2016, but was given credit for time served.
3 people were killed in a head-on crash in Pickering last night. The CTV News chopper was over the area this morning along Highway 7 near Concession Road 6. Police say 2 SUVs collided. The person in the eastbound vehicle, an 82-year-old resident of Port Perry, died at the scene. 2 passengers in the westbound SUV, a 63-year-old from Markham and a 68-year-old from Scarborough, also died at the scene. The driver of the westbound vehicle and 2 other passengers are in hospital with life-threatening injuries.
And some scary moments at an Etobicoke elementary school. A fire forced the evacuation of the building today. The 2-alarm blaze broke out at St. Andrew Catholic Elementary School near Kipling and Far Avenue just before 11:30 this morning. Children in the daycare had to be moved to a portable, but no one was injured. There's no word at this point on what sparked the fire, but police say it appears to have started in the kitchen.
We're learning more about how a Toronto rapper smuggled in and disposed of a cell phone he used to shoot a music video inside an Ontario jail.
The CTV News investigation coming just days after rapper Top 5 was stabbed following a Drake concert in London. CTV's John Woodward reports.
Facts. Man, you wanna know some facts?
That's Toronto rapper Top 5 in his infamous music video recorded behind bars in Maplehurst Correctional Complex, where he was awaiting trial for murder. And that's despite guards hunting furiously for his camera, according to an investigation report obtained by CTV News through a Freedom of Information request. It says they investigated after seeing pictures on social media of Top 5, whose real name is Hassan Ali, in an orange jumpsuit. They stopped one camera in May 2022 when a visitor concealed a cell phone in her bra and smuggled it into the visiting area. The visitor was banned. They also found Ali had an e-disclosure laptop with a camera that may have been operational. No tracking mechanism was in place to identify which laptop was assigned. In November 2022, the report says Ali was strip searched and his cell was searched with no discoveries. During that time, the inmate reportedly said the search was a week late, as he recorded himself eating cheeseburgers after receiving them from overnight correctional staff. The inmate further stated that a music video would be posted via social media the following week and alleged that he utilized an iPhone 12 cellular device to capture the content before flushing it down the toilet. It wasn't until 6 months later this video would be released to the public.
You freed me! Yeah, I'm home!
After Ali got off on the murder charge, he claimed he bribed a guard $10,000 for the phone. The report is silent on who that guard could have been or whether anyone was punished. Ontario's Solicitor General saying most guards do their jobs.
99.9% of everyone that keeps Ontario safe does that. I don't direct the ministry. This is an operational issue. But again, we will hold everyone to account.
On Monday night in the United Kingdom, hours after attending a concert by fellow Canadian rapper Drake, Top 5 was stabbed, London Metropolitan Police said.
He has like a big laceration.
According to fellow rapper DJ Academics,
he went through surgery. He's gonna have full recovery. That's a fact.
No word on if Ali will return to Toronto. He's still facing gun charges. John Woodward, CTV News.
First Nations are fine-tuning their expectations ahead of a key meeting with the Prime Minister over concerns about a contentious major projects law.
Today, some First Nations leaders question whether Mark Carney is checking a box or is ready to meaningfully engage. CTV's Rachel Aiello reports.
First Nations leaders set expectations today for tomorrow's big gathering in Gatineau.
This is not consultation. This is a first meeting of many. This discussion will be led by us.
The Prime Minister organized the meeting to discuss the implementation of Bill C-5 after Indigenous stakeholders felt their rights were not respected in the rush to pass it through Parliament. They now want Carney to listen.
We're going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he produces tomorrow.
I'm a bit more cynical. I do agree. I mean, just look at the process.
9 Ontario First Nations, though, aren't waiting, launching a legal challenge to the federal law and a similar provincial plan to try and prevent both governments from using their new powers to sidestep existing protections.
These bills from Ontario and Canada show that the Crown has no interest in reconciliation.
Today, Carney was asked,
have your belated consultations jeopardized the goal of getting new projects built?
Well, first, no.
He went on to say tomorrow's talks are about engaging on how to work together in the future.
What are the priorities? That's before any consultation on any specific project.
The Ontario government is also consulting First Nations this summer, with Premier Doug Ford's office promising to build consensus around projects that support prosperity. And Carney has additional plans to have conversations with Inuit and Métis leaders in the coming weeks. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Gatineau.
Crews in Newfoundland and Labrador are battling a wildfire on the Buena Vista Peninsula. State of emergency remains in effect in the area. Fire officials say the Chance Harbor wildfire has destroyed an unknown number of cabins. This is no official order to leave, but some cabin owners have been asked to stay away for now. The fire is moving northeast, away from other communities.
Israel launched airstrikes on the center of the Syrian capital today, killing 3 people and injuring 13 others. The Syrian Defense Ministry headquarters was struck. There was also an attack near the presidential palace outside of Damascus. The Israelis say the strikes were part of a campaign intended to push Islamic militants away from its border and to defend the Druze minority, which forms a substantial community in Israel. Today, Syrian officials and Druze leaders announced a new ceasefire after days of deadly clashes.
A volcano erupted in southwest Iceland today, belching smoke and lava. Magma opened a massive fissure up to 1,000 meters long, but based on data, it is likely this was a relatively small eruption. There are reports people were evacuated from a nearby town and a spa resort, but flights at an airport in the capital were not affected. This is just the latest in a series of outbreaks near the capital in recent years. Iceland has now experienced a dozen eruptions since geological systems in the region were reactivated in the year 2021.
In Italy, an artist has created an image of the Pope using his talent and his tractor. The face of the pontiff was carved out in a field about 25,000 square meters near Verona. Unlike his other works, Dario Gambarin left the green grass on the Pope's face, making the artwork almost entirely green. Next to the image are the words, "Peace in the World." Gambarin sketched the work on a piece of paper before jumping on his tractor to trace it in the field.
An unlikely surfer was spotted catching some waves in New Zealand.
Yeah, boy. Only one out.
Right, it. The unexpected beachgoer made quite the splash, making the most of a swell at a beach on the North Island. The videographer says he thought this was a person at first, bobbing in and out of the waves towards the shoreline. Then he realized, oh, it was a seal.
Back here at home, it's a signature summer event in our city, and this year's Caribbean Carnival is quickly approaching.
And today, Toronto Police held an event in Scarborough to help launch this year's festivities. Our Janice Golding was there.
A fun, colorful start to the annual Caribbean Carnival at Scarborough's Heron Park Community Centre. Children, community members and dignitaries all on hand for the Toronto Police Service's kickoff to the annual cultural event.
The Caribbean Carnival is a true Toronto classic, celebrating the diversity and vibrancy that defines our great city. And at the Toronto Police, we are incredibly proud that this diversity is reflected in our ranks.
Toronto Police have been participating in this event since 1991.
Thanks to the Toronto Police Service and the government agencies that are working with them, is celebrating that heritage celebrating those contributions and the value of diversity.
You help us put on this jewel of the Caribbean in a joyous and safe coming together of almost 2 million people from around the world.
The theme for this year's Toronto Caribbean Carnival is Take Me Home.
And it speaks to the heart of Caribbean culture, the feeling of belonging, family, joy, resilience.
Caravana will be held from July 31st to August the 4th, with the Junior Carnival and Family Day preceding it all this coming Saturday.
It's great for my heritage. I'm from two of the Caribbean islands, and I've been doing this for around 17 years. So to do this, it's an honor.
Carnival is celebration, it's life, it's fun, it's the food, and it's the people.
Carnival means to me of celebrating each other, like from just not Trinidad and Tobago, but all mostly the islands.
This is an event that brings together young and old from every walk of life.
It was exciting. The music felt fun.
It's where we all come together and celebrate one community.
There are many events planned for this year's carnival, like Pan Alive and the King and Queen Showcase. But the main event, the Grand Parade, takes place on August the 2nd. Janice Golding, CTV News.
Keep your arms and legs inside the car at all times and hold on tight. We take a ride on Canada's Wonderland's brand new record-breaking launch coaster. Coming up, a front row seat on Alpine Fury.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, the City of Toronto is trying to control its costs, and that includes charging fees if the fire department shows up and it's a false alarm. A man just got a bill for almost $1,700, but he claims he's not the one who set off the alarm. I'll have that story. That's just ahead.
Well, today we hit 30 degrees before the morning was even finished. So that makes this our 14th day in 2025. We've had 9 30-degree days in July alone. Tomorrow, it looks as though we will stay just shy of that 30-degree threshold, but it will continue to feel into the 30s. We also have a chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorms thanks to an incoming cold front, and that front is going to do just that, cool us down. Coming up, I'll show you just how cool it could be by the time we reach Friday. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Toronto Fire Services respond to false alarm calls every day, which total thousands of nuisance calls each year.
Sending out fire trucks and crews is expensive, which is why if you are responsible for a false alarm, you could get a bill from the city. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle and Nathan. A Toronto man says he got a bill for almost $1,700 because he was cooking something in a condo that set off a fire alarm. But he felt he didn't cause the false alarm and says he doesn't want to pay the bill. Do you feel you set off the alarm?
No, I would have heard it.
Mike Westerfeld rents a unit in this Toronto condominium. He says there have been problems in the past with people maliciously pulling fire alarms, causing the fire department to show up with no fire to put out. The building has cameras, smoke detectors, and fire alarms in the hallways. And he says in February he was told the alarm outside his unit went off because he was cooking and smoke filled the hallway. He says he doesn't recall that happening.
I know I didn't set the alarm off because it didn't go off. I didn't hear it. And if it would have went off, it rings in the apartment.
Westerfeld says his landlord received a bill for $1,680 from the Toronto Fire Department for a nuisance false alarm. It's a bill he'll have to pay.
If they said that they seen smoke coming out of my apartment, why did they not come up to the unit to make sure that there was no fire in my unit?
Toronto Fire Services says false alarms tie up staff and fire trucks and keep the fire department away from legitimate fire calls. It says the false alarm charges are to make sure the city's resources are being used effectively and efficiently. In a statement, a spokesperson told CTV News, if Toronto Fire Services responds to a false fire alarm, the owner is responsible for paying the fee the city charges for that response. CTV News reached out to management of the building, but we were told they had no comment at this time. Westerfeld says he rarely uses his stove and does not recall cooking anything that resulted in smoke drifting into the hallway.
They say I did. I'm saying I didn't.
The fees for malicious or false alarms are listed on the City of Toronto's website. The city does have an application for reimbursement of false alarm administration fees. Westerfeld would like to have the charges he's being asked to pay reviewed because he feels he shouldn't have to pay them.
I can't afford it. I really can't.
And late today, the property manager told CTV News there was smoke coming from the unit and the fire department did attend. The manager said the building was following the rules and regulations set out by Toronto Fire Services in billing the unit for the call. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
All right, another hot, humid day with air quality a concern again, but the good news is things are going to change.
I think we've been used to so many days above 30 degrees and that humidity that when it does cool down in short order, it'll feel cool. Like we're going to, even though it's not that cold.
It's all relative, right? Friday morning might feel a little chilly. If you're an early riser, you might consider a light sweater, maybe a light jacket, because yes, it's been so hot. We're now used to this, but I know that many are ready for a change, and it is coming, both in terms of the temperature and also the conditions. Some areas seeing a few showers out there earlier today, late this afternoon even, and into the evening, but further change comes tomorrow. Let's talk about today. It was another hot day, but perhaps a fair day on the fairways. Nice day for a round of golf. That's what lots of people were doing today in and around Toronto. Our CTV News chopper flying high over Pickering, and that's a good idea. You needed an umbrella, not for rain today, but for shade. Good call. The UV very strong on a day like this, and it felt like 40 at the height of the afternoon. So extra bottles of water, a good idea too. We mentioned it earlier in the newscast, but do you remember this day 1 year ago? Almost 100 millimeters of rain fell at Pearson Airport, and that was thanks to what we call training thunderstorms. It was one storm after another that kept hitting the city, and as a result, there was severe and very costly flooding that impacted us. By comparison, we are low on the rainfall amounts for a monthly average here in July. We haven't had a whole lot of rain. A couple of sprinkles could impact areas as we make our way through this evening. I'll step aside so you can see a bit of active weather across southwest Ontario and the state of Michigan, but it has eased up compared to earlier today. On the other hand, rainfall warnings are in place across northern Ontario. It's been a lot of rain in this part of the province over the last couple of days, and there's the special air quality advisory that remains in place around the GTA. Hoping to see this come to an end with the change in conditions and certainly a different air mass moving in as we make our way through tomorrow. So this is what we're watching for, a cold front. Ahead of it and along it, there's the chance of a few showers and maybe a few thunderstorms. It looks like the most active weather and potent storms, though, are going to be to the north and to the east of us. We might get some passing showers or a non-severe thunderstorm, but at this point, it's looking like the stronger storms will be to our east. There's about 10 o'clock in the morning, a chance in through the afternoon as well, and then we're going to dry out again. We're also going to cool down. We're going to clear out. Friday looks brilliantly sunny, but it's also going to be noticeably cooler. So we'll get to that in just a moment. Air quality looks to improve for tomorrow, too. We expect to be in the low-risk area. Today, it is still smoggy. It's hot. It's humid. We're now at 29 degrees in Toronto, so we're starting to cool down. But we look to remain in the 20s through the overnight hours tonight, still feeling into the 30s. And then temperature-wise tomorrow, looks as though we're going to see some communities in the mid-20s, others in the upper 20s. We're forecasting about 29 degrees here in Toronto, so not quite in the 30s anymore. And then look at overnight into Friday morning. We could drop to about 14 degrees. So that's going to be a little cool. 23 degrees on Friday is below seasonal. I'm going to call it comfortable heading into the weekend. Condition-wise, we look pretty good too. Chance of showers late day Saturday and perhaps Sunday morning, but the afternoon looks drier. That's your look at the weather for now. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, it can be easily misdiagnosed in women because the symptoms are so common. We take a closer look at Sjogren's disease and highlight how one patient is pushing awareness.
Sjogren's disease affects hundreds of thousands of Canadians.
And the majority are women. But as CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, a lack of awareness could mean there are many more who are undiagnosed.
A decade ago, Leanne Elnicki had a really slow recovery after a challenging bike race.
Unfortunately, I was kind of gaslit, like I was looked at and said, oh, there's nothing wrong with you.
It's not until she had dental problems years later that she was diagnosed with Sjogren's disease.
About 1% of the population has Sjogren's disease, so in Canada, that's about 400,000 people. It is an autoimmune disease, but we don't know what triggers it.
And it has a multitude of possible symptoms.
It starts off with the 4 hallmark symptoms of dry eyes, dry mouth, joint pain, and excessive fatigue.
But Dr. Leslie Lang says patients, who are mainly postmenopausal women, are often dismissed, leading to years of suffering before they are correctly diagnosed. Elnicki says dry mouth sounds minor to some people.
When you're not producing the same amount of saliva, your teeth aren't as protected against bacteria. So unfortunately, I'm 52 years old and I'm looking at getting dentures now because I've lost all of my molars. And it's embarrassing. It's really, it makes you self-conscious, as well as there are just foods that you can't enjoy anymore. A lot of times when you're missing teeth, the assumptions that people jump to are incredible. Like I've outright been accused of being a drug user.
And there's no treatment, just management of symptoms.
There are medications that people can take to help with joint and body pain. There are medications that people can take to help with dry eyes, dry mouth, etc. So in some cases, it means going to multiple specialists.
And there are serious long-term implications.
It affects the lungs, it affects the heart, there are cardiac issues, obviously with dry mouth, it's trouble with swallowing food, so the gastrointestinal features, liver features, and there's a greater chance of getting lymphoma and cancers.
Elnicki says people experiencing symptoms need to push for a proper diagnosis because awareness of Sjogren's disease is low, even in the medical community. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Public health officials in Hamilton are advising the public about potential exposure to measles last week. Anyone at the following locations during certain times may have been exposed to the virus without their knowledge. Service Ontario on Charlton Avenue West on July 7th, Costco on Legend Court on the 7th, Upper Gage Clinic and Gage Pharmacy on Upper Gage Avenue July 9th, and Service Ontario on King Street West on the 9th. People are being urged to watch for symptoms. The warning stems from 2 confirmed cases in the city, both from the same household and travel-related. People are being urged to watch for symptoms.
A group of doctors is warning poor air quality can cause long-term adverse health effects. The Quebec chapter of the Canadian Association of Physicians for the Environment says exposure to fine particles can affect every organ in the body, and that can increase the risk of everything from premature dementia to lung, heart, and kidney problems. Young and healthy people will experience minor effects such as stinging eyes or a sore throat, but those with heart or lung issues need to be extra careful since they're more prone to complications. People are advised to avoid strenuous exercise during smog episodes, as well as limit time outdoors and close windows when inside. Properly fitted N95 masks can also help.
The latest Knives Out mystery will be among the world premieres lighting up the 50th edition of TIFF. Wake Up, Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery sees Daniel Craig reprise his role as Detective Benoit Blanc, alongside a cast that includes Josh O'Connor, Josh Brolin, and Mila Kunis. Clement Virgo's new psychological thriller is also among 11 official selections announced by TIFF today. The Toronto International Film Festival runs from September 4th to 14th and will open with John Candy, I Like Me, a documentary on the late Canadian comic.
One of the coolest big screen weapons is expected to fetch big bucks at auction.
You are unwise to lower your defenses.
Darth Vader's lightsaber is going on the auction block in September. The actual prop used in The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi is part of Prop Store's next entertainment memorabilia live auction. The item due to fetch between $1 and $3 million. Other key items, look at this. Harrison Ford's bullwhip and belt from Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade, and Sauron's helmet from The Lord of the Rings.
After the break, in these dog days of hockey, an adorable announcement. The Leafs unleashed the new season schedule with the help from a pack of pups.
I was told to leave my position, leave Brampton. Otherwise, my wife, my son, and myself would be killed.
Updating our top stories, a 29-year-old Brampton man's been charged after someone threatened Mayor Patrick Brown and his family in June. Police have arrested Kanwarjot Singh Manoria and allege he acted alone.
Canada to build big things fast. We need our steel industry to advance, not retreat.
The Prime Minister announced measures today to protect Canada's steel industry. They include new tariffs on China and relying more on domestic steel for Canadian projects. For now, Ottawa will not adjust its retaliatory duties on some U.S. steel and aluminum products that have been in place since the spring.
City staff in charge with managing the snow clearance failed in their job.
Toronto's mayor is calling the city's response to a major snowfall in February a systemic failure. 50 centimeters fell in a week, and some places were left unclear for days. Dozens of deficiencies have since been discovered, including unreliable snow clearing machines that broke down, and the city lacking surge capacity in staffing and equipment.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app.
More now on Canada's plan to help prop up the steel industry by restricting tariff-free imports. BNN Bloomberg's Andrew Bell has tonight's business report.
The federal government is cutting the amount of foreign steel that importers can bring into the country tariff-free. It's part of an attempt to support the domestic steel industry, which has been hit by levies imposed by U.S. President Donald Trump. The Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, said Ottawa will tighten the zero tariff quota for steel products from countries without a free trade deal with Canada to 50% of last year's volumes. Above that, a 50% import duty will apply. Meanwhile, as trade talks with Washington continue, Bank of Nova Scotia economist Derek Holt says Ottawa should consider excluding U.S. companies from major infrastructure and defense projects as part of its response to Trump's duties. U.S. stocks fell briefly and the U.S. dollar slipped after Trump refused to rule out firing the head of America's central bank. Such a move would raise questions about the stability of U.S. interest rate policy and even the U.S. currency. Trump did say he is, quote, not planning on doing anything to remove the Federal Reserve Chair, Jerome Powell, adding, quote, it's highly unlikely unless he has to leave due to, quote, fraud. Some administration officials have accused the Fed of botching a renovation at its Washington headquarters. Gold moved higher amid the uncertainty, topping $3,350 US per ounce. And finally, investors continued to pile into nuclear-related stocks today, amid hopes that the power source will thrive in a world trying to cut back on fossil fuels. Shares in the giant Canadian uranium miner Cameco, which now also has a stake in the reactor business, hit a record high. So did Energy Fuels, a Toronto-listed U.S. uranium supplier. Washington is seeking applications to build facilities to supply nuclear fuel. Forecasts for a surge in electricity demand are spurring interest in new reactors, but the industry lacks a well-developed U.S. domestic supply chain for the fuel. On the markets, the Canadian dollar changed hands at 73.07 US cents, up around 1/5 of a cent. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $65.19, down 18 cents a barrel. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil has it at $54.14, down 88 cents. And the TSX closed at 27,152.97, up just over 98 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Construction on new homes in Canada last month edged up 0.4% compared to May. The annual housing starts rate amounted to nearly 284,000 units in June. That was an increase of about 1,000 from the previous month. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation also says the annual pace of rural starts was estimated at roughly 22,000 units.
The new report says U.S. tariffs are having an impact on some Canadian business in the auto sector. A survey of 187 small to medium-sized companies shows their revenue declined by an average of 13%. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business also says half of them reported they paused or canceled investments because of uncertainty.
So we're asking the Ontario government to really relook at these programs and reassess the eligibility criteria and hopefully open it up to a greater number of small businesses. If this can't be done, then we're asking that they reallocate the money towards something like the small business tax rate, a measure that we know for sure, time and time again, when we survey our members, comes up as the #1 problem for growth. And so by kind of opening the financial pockets of small business owners, by leaving them more money in their pockets, they'll reinvest it back into their business and accomplish the same goals that these programs are already seeking to do in the first place.
The government says its programs have helped hundreds of businesses over the past few years. CFIB says the programs were created with good intentions, but over a third of small businesses are not eligible.
A groundbreaking Canadian sports star is hanging up her tennis shoes. Eugenie Bouchard is set to call it a career after the National Bank Open in her hometown of Montreal. Bouchard reached #5 in the world in 2014. That year she won one singles tournament and reached the Wimbledon final, becoming the first Canadian woman to reach a Grand Slam final in the Open era. Bouchard also gained millions of social media followers and multiple high-profile endorsements.
The Toronto Maple Leafs announced their 2025-26 regular season schedule today, and they had some help from some furry friends. Other notables include the St. Pat's game on March 17th and the final game of the season, April 15th in Ottawa. By the way, those dogs are adoptable at Save Our Scruff.
They are adorable. The Toronto FC head out on the road for 4 straight games starting tonight in San Diego.
For Toronto FC, Longstaff, square enough ball, and it's headed forcefully in.
The Reds coming off a 1-1 draw with Atlanta on the weekend. TFC has won just twice away from home this season and sits 14th in the Eastern Conference, 11 points out of the final play-in spot. Kickoff tonight is at 10:30.
But that is what they've been doing so well.
Sprung is Rowe, 1v1 mega goal!
Meanwhile, AFC Toronto was looking for a 5th straight win when they took on the Halifax Tides last night. Toronto found the back of the net late in the second half and were able to hold on for a 1-0 victory. The team will play the Montreal Roses on Friday.
Just ahead, it's the tallest, fastest, longest launch coaster in the country, and it's just been unleashed. We take a ride on the new record-breaking attraction at Canada's Wonderland.
Tonight, the urgent recordings from air traffic controllers in BC.
We do have an aircraft that has been hijacked, is in the vicinity of the airport.
Why the suspect stole a plane and why U.S. fighter jets scrambled to Vancouver. Later on CTV National News.
Canada's Wonderland has unleashed what it says is its most extreme ride yet.
It's called App and Fury, and with 9 wild inversions and a blazing launch, it's not for the faint of heart. CB24's Bill Coulter got a chance to take it for a ride.
Today, roller coaster enthusiasts have been waiting for a very long time for Alpine Fury open to the public, and it is an impressive roller coaster. Longest, tallest, fastest launch coasters in Canada, and most inversions, 9 of them across the world of a launch coaster. I got a chance to ride it, and it was unbelievable. 1 minute and 20 of pure, sheer exhilaration. You start off coming slowly around the first turn, and then it just launches you at incredible speed. In fact, it gets up to 115 kilometers per hour, and then this is where you start losing grasp of time and where you are as you spin around the inversions and the loops. And I think the play with time is times kind of slows you down and then fires you up again. It is 1,000 meters long, a full kilometer, and it goes from where you begin all the way to the front gate. And it has a drop of 154 feet or 47 meters. There are so many impressive parts to this. The buzz, definitely worthwhile. I mean, people waiting, worthwhile. The buzz, it has been about this roller coaster, and this roller coaster has delivered. I think we're going to be talking about this one for quite a while. Alpine Fury, open to the public at Canada's Wonderland.
Now Bill is resting because it was a busy day. Who would ride it?
Not me. How about you?
I think I would try it,
Yeah.
but then probably lose my voice.
I would ride it, but I'd be very scared the whole time.
I know, we're scared about it now, but beautiful day to be riding the coasters, to be out, and the heat's going to dissipate.
Yeah, we're going to have a temperature roller coaster upcoming. Big drop on the way, but not tonight. We remain under a heat warning. That's still in place. So too is the air quality advisory and a couple of rainfall warnings to our north. Now included in that, the Bruce Peninsula. Here's a look at tomorrow's highs. Still warm. 29 degrees, will feel like 37. We've got a chance of showers, risk of thunderstorms for tomorrow, likely non-severe in nature. And then look at the sunshine for Friday, but it will be cooler. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Alman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night. You wouldn't ride it? No.
It's for the kids.